Welcome to On My Mind Monday. Today is Monday, February 10th. I almost said the 20th. We don't want to get past things. This is what's on my mind today. And there's a lot of things that have gone by during the week. So some of the things that I might touch on might be a little bit old, but we are going to talk about just throwing it out there as a strategy. Of course, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're also going to talk about the hostages. Is this the end of the penny? I'll kind of mention that, and then we will do a reprise on the whole tariff thing. So maybe I'll just start with that, with the whole tariff thing, because I had an old friend who got a hold of me uh, last week and said, "Are you going to admit you were wrong because Trump used tariffs on Canada and Mexico and it worked?" And I said no, and I gave a little bit of a reason, but no, I'm not going to admit I was wrong because I'm not wrong. Tariffs are not a good idea in like 98% of cases. Just not good policy. And even in this case, it's not necessarily that they even worked. So let's think about what happened here. The president threatened tariffs on our neighbors in Canada and Mexico, and within a short amount of time, they seemed like they capitulated on certain things, and then the tariffs were kind of paused for the next month or so. And so, but what really happened there? So let's take a look. Because when those tariffs were announced, there was a question that came to the president that said, "Hey, is there anything that Canada or Mexico could do to get away from these tariffs?" And he was like, "No, these aren't punitive. This is just the policy, and this is the way that we want to do it. This is my economic policy, so that it's not a punitive thing, right? It was kind of the idea." Well, then he announced them and watched the stock market just slide. It looked terrible. Well, it's interesting because there were some conversations with Canada and Mexico where they announced things that they had largely announced, gosh, at the end of December. There were a few additional things, but most of it was just the same kind of stuff. And then suddenly it's like, oh, well, we're going to pause it. I think that had a lot more to do with the stock market slide, quite frankly, but there's that. So just a reprise on tariffs. Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was this: so much goes on right now in the course of a given week that the thing that is on my mind Monday may be a completely different thing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and certainly over the weekend. So one of the things that we've noted about the new administration, and this is a thing where I think that they have learned, the president has learned, because he found out the hard way last time that any initiative that he tried to do was going to get taken to court. There were going to be injunctions, there were going to be blocks in the courts, and then they were going to have to try and get around them, and it was just going to be a mess. So what he's doing this time is he's throwing everything out there all at once. Every time you turn around, there's a new thing, there's a new thing, there's a new thing, because he knows those things are going to get blocked by the courts. They're going to be injunctions. They're going to have to make arguments. They're going to have to do all these things. So you might as well just do it now. Just get it all out there. So that's good for that. Also, this is kind of a guy who likes ratings, right? He's a former TV guy, and he likes ratings. So he's going for the ratings, and he's always in the news. So we went from having a president where you weren't really sure who was running the country when you heard him speak, to another administration, this administration, where he is constantly kind of in your face. He's all over the place. And so this strategy of throwing everything out there right now seems to be working, because right now Donald Trump has the highest approval ratings that he has ever had. He never had approval ratings this high in his previous term. So for him, all this looks like it's working. By the way, word to the wise, for those of you who are saying, who elected Elon Musk? Well, when you elected Trump, you elected a guy who was on the campaign trail with Elon Musk and said over and over and over again that Elon Musk was going to be a big part of his administration in finding fraud, abuse, and waste. And sure enough, he is. So that kind of takes me to another topic, and that is why we can't have nice things. Of course, U.S. aid was the big headline insofar as all the things that they're finding. So, you know, trans surgeries in third world countries and just crazy things that are being funded or had been funded by U.S. aid. And now, of course, they're pausing aid in order to do a review of all of it. Well, U.S. aid did what a lot of people would consider some very good things as well. Now, there were a lot of even Christian ministries that were getting aid from U.S. aid. Now, whether Christian ministries should be getting aid from Caesar, that's another question. The extent of what aid or United States foreign aid ought to be, that is another question. But there are all kinds of good things that U.S. aid was also funding, and a lot of those things now have been paused or maybe cut because of some bad actors. Bad actors is why we can't have nice things, because now everything gets put on pause. It reminds me when I was a kid and my dad would hear us horsing around when we were supposed to be sleeping, and he would come upstairs and everybody would get a whooping, even if you weren't the one doing it. Everybody got in trouble because bad actors, right? So that's one of the things that we are seeing right now. Hopefully all of this can get sorted because, again, there are some good things and some good people with good hearts that are doing amazing things that have received funding through U.S. aid. And it would be good if either they could be kind of weaned off of that in order to find another funding source or something to encourage the good work that's being done, while at the same time, let's cut those bad actors, because our tax dollars shouldn't be going to reassignment surgeries, right, for anybody. So then there's that. Well, the Super Bowl was yesterday, and the Eagles romped over the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think a lot of the country is kind of happy about that. For better or worse, a lot of people thought that the NFL was kind of favoring the Chiefs throughout the year. It's not that they necessarily got more favorable calls, but they sure did get them in opportune times. We'll just call it that. So there it is. As things are right now, the NFL is, the NFL season is completed. My Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, as soon as the final gun went off for the Super Bowl, they tweeted out that the 2025 season has begun, right? So here we go. So some have said, though, that the day after the Super Bowl should be a holiday because so many people take the day off. Well, then let them take the day off. I don't think that means it should be a holiday. Let them take the day off, and if they can, and if not, then maybe they need to make better choices. I don't know. That sounds harsh, but that's kind of my opinion on that particular matter. So let's talk about something a little tougher. Did you see the hostages that were released? There were some thoughts that went through my mind upon seeing them. First of all, these men were emaciated. They looked like really like something out of the Holocaust in many ways. It was rough to see them, and even harder when you understand that for some of them, being released was when they found out that their families were murdered back on October 7th of 23. That is just, as a husband, as a dad, that would just be an incredible cross to bear. And thinking about that, my prayers go out for them, but also because so many have still not been released. I've said before, and what I saw with that release was the fact that or was a reinforcement to my belief that Hamas needs to be ended, that Israel needs to pound them into oblivion until every single last hostage is released. They need to forget the ceasefire. The ceasefire is a bad deal anyway, and it looks like it's unraveling even as we speak. Get rid of the ceasefire, destroy Hamas, and anybody who wants to go along with them. That's just where I am at this point. Let's take it for what it is. Lastly, maybe on a little bit more of an upbeat note, toward the end of the Super Bowl, the president tweeted or truthed or whatever you call it. He's at the game and he sends this out talking about getting rid of pennies. Apparently, pennies cost over 3 cents to make. It costs over 3 cents to make a penny. So why do we keep making them? I've got more pennies than I know what to do with and probably need to turn them into the bank or something like that. Or I don't know, maybe I should hold on to them if they're going to become rare at some point. But we just have all of these pennies and it costs a bunch of money just to make them. So why not get rid of pennies? Maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's one of those kind of crazy things. It's thinking outside the box, kind of like the whole idea of Gaza. It's just funny. You can take the real estate developer out of the boy, but I guess you can't take the real estate developer out of the president because he's still thinking like a real estate developer, and he sees oceanfront property and he wants to develop it. Which is kind of crazy to think about, but again, outside the box thinking, and maybe that's the kind of thing that we need. Again, it's thinking. There's been nothing set in place to do it, so maybe we can kind of go through the pros and cons and see if that's the kind of thing that we want to do. But that's what's on my mind on this Monday. It is February the 10th. This is Jim, and I'll see you later.